Coming up on this episode of Freedom from Fire, we'll talk to a group striving to change education for our kids by offering programs that emphasize learning, creativity, and civic participation. Then later, we'll find out who you can turn to when the city of brotherly love doesn't seem to be showing you much love. Stay with us. Hello, and welcome back to Freedom from Fire. I'm your host, firefighter Lisa Desamore. I'm currently stationed in our department's Fire Prevention Division, where efforts in community risk reduction are a primary goal. Here at Freedom from Fire, we aim to improve your quality of living by giving you fire and life safety information. We also introduce you to our local safety partners. Today, we're going to start by talking to a group who's trying to make a difference in education. According to the State Department of Education, more than 15,000 children attend Philadelphia schools that have failing scores on the annual performance profile. For many parents, moving to a different school district just isn't an option. So how do these children get help? This is where the nonprofit group Education Works comes in. Education Works is an organization whose mission is to provide high-quality educational programs that make the school day whole and re-engage disconnected young adults to education and career readiness. Here with me today is the president and CEO of Education Works, Mr. Miles Wilson. Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you for having me.
May I call you Miles?
You absolutely can.
Thank you. So, in good old-fashioned, what I always open my interviews with is please tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Miles Wilson, born and raised in the city of Philadelphia. I'm a product of public schools here in Philadelphia. Okay. Overwhelmingly, my family is from here, lives here still. Education is a passion of mine. I believe it's the pathway for people in underserved communities and marginalized communities to have a better life for generations to come.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, and I'm sure our viewers appreciate that as well. Also, give us a little bit of history into what actually led to Education Works.
Sure. So Education Works has been operating for over 20 years.
Oh, wow.
So I'm not the founder of the organization.
Okay.
I followed the founder. I started off as a service organization based in volunteerism. That volunteerism and service led to opportunities within schoolhouses. Those schoolhouses turned into out-of-school time or after-school programming. So we evolved into what we currently are now from our volunteer base.
Awesome. What specific services or resources does your organization provide?
Sure, we have a plethora of services under the Education Works umbrella.
Okay.
So first and foremost, we're the largest provider of out-of-school time services in the city of Philadelphia.
I did not know that.
Right, so out-of-school time, after-school programming from 3 to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday, but it also includes summer programming. So we provide that service 3 to 6 in schools all across the city. So we're in over 20 schools in Philadelphia and in Camden. The difference for us is that we take that out-of-school time experience and move away from just a safe place to be, particularly for Black and brown kids,
okay,
and have a conversation around enrichment. We are firm believers that if students in suburban districts, students that go to private schools have an opportunity to have enrichment, our kids have every right to the same type of programming. Our platforms comes off of STEAM programming, entrepreneurialism, and wellness.
I love it. What would you say of all that you've just shared makes your organization unique?
I believe how we serve our communities with a great level of cultural competence.
Okay.
So frankly, I'm a unicorn in the space. To have a Black male leading an education organization is a very rare thing. On top of that, the people who serve those communities, those marginalized communities, look like the people that we serve. That doesn't mean automatically that you're serving with competency, or cultural competency, but it is a focus for us in our daily walk that we perform our task while honoring the people that we serve, versus coming into a community or into a schoolhouse feeling like we have the answer, or that we don't honor the mores and traditions of the community that we serve. We start off in out-of-school time programming, but we have other programming as well. So we have a program, the ELECT program, for pregnant and parenting teens.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, far too often we have young people who have gotten pregnant early, and unfortunately the graduation rate for those students is extremely low. So we engage them in community and home and school, so they finish school as close to on time as possible. All the while, we're giving them resources to be the best parent they can be, and then we have career conversations. We also have programming for returning citizens coming out of incarceration, ages 18 to 26. That's our Power Corps program. How do we have those young men and women come back into Philadelphia? And then it's beyond being a productive citizen. That's what everybody likes to say. How can they be their best self, away from just being like, you know, an incredible citizen?
Right.
How can you be your best self? How can you start your own business? How can you be career-minded versus just job attainment?
Okay.
A lot of times these programs that are out here now, all they want to have a conversation about is getting a job. What they don't tell you is those jobs usually last for like 6 months, and then people are out in the cold again.
Right.
So we try to push beyond that.
Oh, wow. I got to have you back because we have a lot of information to cover, but I'm
Sure.
going to stick to what I have so far.
Okay.
So I recently learned that Education Works hosted a summer camp this past summer. Is the summer program modeled after specific programs that you already offered? I think I have listed here your in-school support program, and what is different, if so?
It's a continuation. So many of the students, so we serve about 1,000 kids in Camden and Philadelphia in summer school or summer camp every year.
Okay.
Those students typically are students who are in the schools that we've already engaged them in school supports or in out of school time. So it's really a continuation of what they've received during the school year. We have really incredible partnerships with the Franklin Institute, the Barnes Museum. So what you'll see us do, we have like a capstone at the end of the summer where about 1,000 kids from Philadelphia and Camden, those beautiful black and brown faces,
I love it.
go down to Franklin Institute,
Okay.
1,000, all in like power lime green Education Work shirts, and go to the Franklin Institute. It's made the news the last 2 years, but ultimately we have STEAM curriculum that they push through the entire school year, and that visit to the Institute is this capstone where they actually can see everything that they discussed and projects that they worked on throughout the regular school year. And it seems trivial, but for a lot of our communities, even communities that are in walking distance of the Parkway, they've never broken the threshold of any of those institutions.
Wow.
So to have 1,000 of our kids go and sort of actually go through a walking heart when they've been having STEAM conversations and science conversations, biology conversations, it means a lot.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this kind of ties into what you were just saying. What would you say are positive reinforcing factors as it relates to education for young people?
I'm a firm believer that our young people, we all come here as geniuses.
Okay.
And frankly, our institutions, the way we educate, we strip people of their uniqueness. When you are authentically yourself, you are your best self.
Okay.
You are intelligent your way. And then you get put into an institution, they want to do standardized tests and tell you why you're not smart.
Huh.
So what we attempt to do is our theory of change is experiential.
Okay.
How do we have you engage, let's say, STEAM programming, but do it the way you're comfortable with, the way that draws your passion? We're firm believers that if you find your passion, you'll find that thing that you're incredible at. It's not for us to determine that. It's up to you to determine that.
I love that. So basically, you know, performing at your optimal. So if you're someone who's, you know, a really good writer, someone who takes instructional writing well, will be well in that particular aspect.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, during the school day, what happens is you deal with the way they test and the way we test. It's really about memorization. It's not about depth of knowledge. You know, what happens to that tactile learner who does better by touching, feeling the experience? What happens with the person who does better by collaborating? They express their intelligence, and their intelligence shows through collaboration. It's very rare that our kids get that opportunity. You go to a private school, they get that all day, every day.
That is so very true. Here's another question. Why do you believe civic engagement is important for young people?
Without civic engagement, what you have are individuals who are only memorizing things in a book. I was taught to be an activist for activism.
Okay.
It's one thing to know, it's another thing to act on what you know. That's a different ball game.
It absolutely is.
So for our young people to not just see the news, hear the news, how do you engage in that news? Matter of fact, how do you make the news? How do you impact the news? How do you have the story be about you? That's what we really pride ourselves on. So we take that program that we have, we introduce them to people that they may have seen on television, like council people. And council people have visit our kids and talk about gentrification. Okay. That's one of the things that we had a heavy focus on. The kids start to find their voice, and we actually had them challenge a senator, not in a disrespectful way,
right.
But they had a viewpoint. And they found their voice, and they found a way to express their feeling to a senator, to a city council person. And they started to feel like, wow, I am strong, I am powerful, okay. I do have a view on something. And they did an incredible job just year after year expressing themselves.
It sounds like they absolutely did. It seems you are always in the news. So, what are your latest current events that we can look for?
So, annually we have something called the Empower event. And it's our annual event. It's a fundraiser, it's a friend raiser, it's an awareness raiser about the organization. So that just took place in May, okay. At the new Fiddler Club. And it was an incredible experience. We honored a black entrepreneur, Mike Pearson, who's local here. And once again, it's this opportunity, and our kids were there. They actually ran the show. I tried to shut up, and they lead everything, okay. Right? So they get the experience of leading an annual event, okay. And seeing an annual event, sharing with people, let's say, who have resources, sort of what they're up to. They actually had a chance to meet other entrepreneurs. They got the cards of those CEOs and started to make connections. Okay. But then they heard from somebody that looks like them. A man who looks like them, maybe looks like their dad or their uncle from West Philadelphia, and they got it. They started to see, I'm that, okay. Right? I can be that or more. We also just had, not too long ago, our Young Friends event. It's a cornhole tournament. Who knew cornhole was a thing? I didn't grow up with cornhole.
Me neither.
But apparently it's a whole thing.
Okay.
And year after year, it ramps up. There's more and more people. We actually have the Philadelphia Cornhole League officials come, and we have some really inspired competition year after year now. Okay. So if people go to our website, our events, they're continuous, and people, please jump in.
Okay.
Jump in.
So just a couple more quick questions before we wrap up. You mentioned several times throughout our discussion about the, not so much importance, but that's basically what I'm asking. I hear you say people that look like us, visualizing someone that looks like you. Why is that so important?
You know, a lot of times the kids, the communities that we serve, marginalized communities, communities of color, we fall for the banana in the tailpipe. Yeah. We get told a host of things, a series of things about ourselves. Those messages are sent through the media, through the news, through other platforms. It's important for us, particularly the adults, to share with young people, reach beyond what's directly in front of you, and know there's a whole world out there of people engaging in things that you don't know, that you may not know about, and they look just like you. And for a lot of our kids to see that, it's a message.
Absolutely.
It's a message that, wow, you know, I've sort of received these messages over and over again, but I need to push beyond the immediate message to know that there's other things going on, and I too can participate in all those different things.
So, someone wants to get in contact with you, with your organization. How would they do so?
So educationworks.org is our website. The website's pretty robust, so once you get there, depending on what you're interested in, you can sort of click the links and get right into it. So, you know, if you have resources that you want to give, we have a development side of the website. If you want to volunteer, you can click on that. If you want to know more about programs, how your kid can get involved in one of our programs, that's available to you too. We're also at Education Works on all platforms.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're going to take a short break, but when we return, we'll hear from the city office that works to help us all get along and to be treated fairly every day. We'll be right back.
According to statistics, 40 million adults suffer from depression or anxiety. 1 in 4 college students are affected by this as well. You never know who is going through something, so you should always be kind to one another. A little kindness can go a long way. It might even save a life.
According to the Mayo Clinic, exercising has stress-busting benefits by bumping up your endorphins and improving your mood.
Hook to the dollar feature and you're on my mind. Return of the creature that crawled up from the subway line. You're always keeping me waiting, keeping me waiting for you.
Welcome back to Freedom from Fire. I'm your host, firefighter Lisa Desamore. For the second half of our show, we're going to focus on the city office whose job is to make sure that Philadelphia is a good place for all people to live. The Philadelphia Commission on Human Relations works to enforce the city's laws prohibiting discrimination, to promote equal rights and opportunities of all residents, and to advance community relations across race, religion, ethnicity, disability, and sexual orientation. Now let's introduce, from the Office on Commission of Human Relations, our Human Relations representative, Mr. David Oliver. Thank you, David.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us today. So I have my list of questions, and first I would like to ask, as I ask all my guests, please tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was born in Philadelphia. I was raised in Florida.
Okay.
And throughout my journey, I developed a passion for helping others. So I decided to devote my college career as well as my professional career to do so.
Awesome. Thank you.
I went to school locally, by the way.
Okay.
Go Temple Owls. That's right.
Okay. All right. So the commission is organized into 3 divisions. So first, what does the compliance division do?
So the commission it's the Philadelphia Commission on Human Relations with the Fair Housing Commission. Okay. So it's actually 2 divisions, which is the Compliance Division and the Community Relations Division.
Okay.
And then the Fair Housing Commission is a branch.
Okay.
So what the Compliance Division does is exactly what it says. It makes sure that these agencies, whether they are public or private agencies, are in compliance with the city's laws regarding discrimination. And discrimination has different looks.
Okay.
So for example, people must have, people who have a disability, maybe a physical disability, must have access to buildings, city buildings, public buildings.
Okay.
And that could be described as a form of discrimination when they don't have that kind of access.
Okay, thank you. And so what does Community Relations Division do?
So the Community Relations Division, which I'm a part of, we essentially help bridge the gap between feuding neighbors.
Okay.
And it could, not necessarily neighbors, but there could be businesses and neighbors. So you'd be surprised how many people who live juxtaposed to one another just don't get along.
Wow.
And so we help mediate those disputes.
Okay.
Additionally, we help mediate disputes in schools. We
Oh,
help mediate disputes in different forums, and so we're like a neutral third party.
Okay.
And the beauty of our program is that we don't have a system where there's a winner and there's a loser.
Okay.
We believe that we can come to a mutually beneficial agreement where both parties win.
Oh, okay. That sounds, I'm sure, like it works for both parties then, and that's a good thing. Fair Housing Division, what can you tell us about them?
So our Fair Housing Commission, what they do is they help mediate the disputes between landlords and tenants.
Okay.
So there are certain responsibilities that landlords have. There are certain responsibilities that tenants have. So a lot of people don't know that there are, so for example, landlords must return a tenant's, the entire portion of a tenant's security deposit except for 1 month's rent after 12 months of rental.
Okay.
So a lot of people are unaware of that. Landlords have a certain set of responsibilities. Tenants have a set of responsibilities, and all that information can be found on our website.
Okay. So how would tenants know something like that? Is that something that landlords are supposed to communicate beforehand to them?
Right. That's a great question. So landlords are supposed to communicate these things, but sometimes it may slip their mind, or quite frankly, sometimes they don't themselves know.
Okay.
So landlords must have proper documentation to rent in the city of Philadelphia.
Okay.
So for example, a landlord must have a certificate of rental suitability. If he or she does not have a certificate of rental suitability, for however long he or she does not have it, the renter does not even owe rent.
Really?
So, yes. So
Oh.
it's not like it accrues where you have to put it in maybe an escrow account, and then when the landlord gets those documents, it's owed. Well, that's not the case. If the landlord does not have these specific documents, then rent is not even owed.
Okay. I'm sure that is going to be some useful information for quite a bit of our viewers. What are some programs that you can tell our viewers about?
So the Philadelphia Commission on Human Relations, we work closely with the police districts.
Okay.
So for example, my assigned districts is in the whole Northwest Division.
Okay.
And which is comprised of the 5th, 14th, 35th, and 39th police districts. So we work closely with those districts and the services they provide. For example, each district that I'm a part of, we did book bag drives. So we gave away free book bags and supplies to community members, and we asked no questions. So sometimes when these programs are held at a police district, there's some skepticism.
Okay.
But we don't ask for any ID, any verification, we just want to serve the community.
Okay. So they show up and they get a book bag.
Right.
That's amazing. I really like that. When I was looking on the website, I saw a Ban the Box link on the commission website. What is that? Can you tell us exactly what it is?
Sure. So the Ban the Box movement was this law that was passed that made it illegal for most businesses in the city to ask if a person has been convicted of a crime before a conditional offer of employment has been made.
Okay.
So essentially, most businesses in the city has to offer a person a job before they ask if he or she has been convicted of a crime. And so that law has been, the name of that law has been changed to the Fair Hiring Practices Law.
Okay.
And so it makes it, essentially it makes it illegal. It kind of levels the playing field for people who have been convicted of a crime. It could be a misdemeanor, felony, or whatever crime it was that he or she was convicted of.
Okay.
And it kind of evens out the playing field to allow him or her to find employment, to fairly find employment.
Okay. So I'm assuming then if someone were interested in that link, if they click on the link, it gives them a bunch of information as it relates to that.
Correct.
Okay, cool. Are there any city events that the commission hosts? If so, what are they?
So that's a great question. So we typically are an arm at, or a branch, for example, at most events that we participate in.
Okay.
So many people, churches, schools, they will ask us to come out and do maybe a presentation to tell people or their guests or those in attendance about some of the services that we offer.
Okay.
So we are the agency that will typically be at many events, and we've been around since 1951.
Your
The
office.
agency has been around
Really?
since
Okay.
1951.
Another new thing for me to
Right,
learn today.
right.
Okay. So then I would make the assumption there's quite a bit of disputes here in the city of brotherly love that you guys handle then.
Yes, we handle them, and we just not just disputes, but we handle different things like outreach,
Okay.
education. We do conflict resolution training.
Oh, nice.
Right.
Okay.
So there's a lot of services that we offer that unfortunately many people don't know about. They're all free services.
Okay.
And it's an official city agency.
Free. That's the main word we
Right.
want to
The
focus
price is
on.
right.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so you have all these services, all of this information. I'm sure so many residents here in the city definitely will probably want to check up on all of this. So if someone wanted to get in contact with your office, how would they do so?
So the best way to get in contact with our office is through our website.
Okay.
PCHR@phila.gov PCHR .phila.gov.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. And I'm sure they could just Google it and they can
Right.
find information
Right.
and they can follow the prompts and links that way. I know most times here in the city and in most places, when someone is bent on looking for some type of information, they're going to be pretty adamant about finding that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for all the information that you've provided. Remember, if you'd like to find out more about LaSalle TV, you can check out our social media sites. And if you're interested in learning about the Philadelphia Fire Department, visit our Facebook, Twitter, and web pages. I would like to once again thank our guests for joining us today. I'd also like to thank you for tuning in and watching. So until next time, remember, fire is everyone's fight. Stay safe and remain free from fire.